Hey, welcome back. What we're going to start doing now is what I need to do is we need to strip out some of these bits of track over here. We need to put in new cork bed here that's going to go all the way up to the edge and meet this one. So that's what we're doing. I've already started here. I cut the track back. This section here will be the dead track. That's where it's going to be. That's as big as, I'm not doing it any bigger. I think it's more than enough for what I've got here. So I cut the track back and I stripped off the old cork bed, and then we're going to lay down new bed, and then I have to do the same on the other side. Okay, so now all the track bed is back on. This will all be great. It'll all fill in just fine. So now the only thing to do is to let that sit and dry, and then I give it an hour or two, give or take, and we should be good to go. I can pull out the nails, and then we can do a final sand along the edge here with the bridge down, just to even everything up a little bit on both sides, and then the track bed is done. So last time we were here, we had hinged this, we got the slide bolts working underneath. The next step was going to be to put the micro switches in. Well, I kind of forgot to turn on the camera, and I put the micro switches in. So here's what I did. Is when you look close over here, I used my router and I put a hole. I routed a hole right in there to fit the micro switch, and then I mounted I super glued basswood to the top and bottom of the micro switch, and I super glued the whole thing right in there. So now I just have lead wires hanging down in the back that just need to get hooked up to the track. So yeah, so that's the first switch. Okay, and then underneath here, this is the opposite side. These are screwed in. They're actually screwed, and here are the lead wires that I spoke of. They're on both switches, so each of these switches, one will control the inner track, this one will control the outer track. And like I said, that's just so that my own thing, so that I know it's latched in properly. So those are in as well. And then when the slide bolts close and go through the thing here and they latch, they push right onto the switch mechanism here, and they close the switch, and that will turn on the power, and there we go. So those are now done. So now it's just wiring into the feeders from the track. Okay, and then up here, just, I don't know if I showed you, but in the side of the drop gate here, there's a screw here. So when we close the drop gate, it goes into the hole and pushes on the switch and closes it. So that would activate this track power and the bridge. So this micro switch here powers right here, and it'll power all the way across the bridge. And then these two micro switches will control this other side. So all the heavy duty stuff is done. So now we're just up to scenery. And this is something else I did last night. I got bored and I didn't know what to do with myself, so I came down here, and what I started to do, let's see if I can back this up. Okay. So what I did was, if you watch, see this overhang, so it covers this gap here. The roadbed here covers all the way up to the edge, so it's a nice tight fit. See, everything's good, there's no gaps. And then on this side, this overhangs as well, so it covers this gap down here, and then I have another gap here so that this passes through. So I added on foam. See, and this foam hangs over, and I cut this back, so when you raise it up, it all fits into each other. Everything fits into the next piece. It all goes together like that. So now the only thing left to do now would be, well, the next step would be to paint all this pink brown so it all goes together, and then I can start scenicking. Start the scenic stuff and dirt and grass and so on, trees. But I'm not ready for that yet. Next thing's next. We have to go over here and we have to tackle this waterfall. This is where the waterfall is going to be. So I cut this in as well. And all I did was use a long knife. I have these knives here. These knives are awesome for this 2-inch foam. They work really good. So I cut out the river. This is where the river is going to come. And the next thing to do for me right now is I'm going to cast some rocks. And we're going to place those in here. And then I think that's all I need for right now. I have bridge abutments coming. I ordered them. They're going to come to go here and here. So the next step, like I said, so we're up to scenery now. The rest of this stuff's done. I don't want to wire anything until I get the track in across here, and then I can drop the feeders and really start wiring this all up. I want to do it all at once. I don't want to do it in pieces. So we're going to move on to scenery now until my stuff comes in. So yeah, so rock castings. Okay, so here we're going to start molding the rocks. And what I don't buy the Walters Hydrocal. I have this stuff here, which is cheaper. I buy it off the internet in a big pail. It's just a generic stuff. It works good. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cup or two of this. Yeah, that should be good. And then I need to stir. And we're just going to mix this with some warm water. I use warm water because it sets up quicker. Okay, and those just need to sit and dry up. This will get hot as it dries. I'm going to take this outside and hose it down, and then when this is all dried, we'll come back and we'll crack these out of the molds. Okay, so the molds have had a chance to sit for a while now, and they're fairly well dried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this on a piece of newspaper. I'm going to crack these out of the molds now. Throw these things in the garbage. And then the molds here, we'll just clean these out. We'll just pop off whatever's left on here. So this is what we end up with. So somehow, somewhere, we're going to make these fit, and these will cover the waterfall and the sides. It'll look kind of like a quarry stone wall with a small lake. And all of this will fit into that one way or another. We'll make this all work. So, yeah, so the next step, I'm going to let these dry a little bit more out of the mold. The plaster is still kind of soft. I'd like to see it dry a little bit more. So we'll get going on this. We'll start putting these in. So now what I want to do is I want to start building the waterfall. So I cut up a couple of these just because I was kind of curious and I can't wait. I'm like a little kid at Christmas. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to fit these in a way, like I want this one to be the top of the waterfall. I want the water to come down and kind of trickle down on the sides and come down all through here, all through here. I like the way it's shaped. So I want that to be in here, but I got to get it to fit just right. So I think what I have to do is I'm going to have to cut this back. I'm going to go get some cutters and I'll be right back. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to fit this in here. So it's a little bit big, it's a little long. So I'm going to cut off some of this side over here. So these are just wire cutters. This is all I use. You don't need anything fancy to cut this stuff. Just whatever gets the job done. And it doesn't have to be clean and neat. It's just got to get it to the size you need. And I'm going to cut off this little side here. See? And I want that to fit right in there just like that. And what I'm trying to do, because this is the river coming into the waterfall, when I pour the epoxy in here, I want the water up here to be deep as well, just like it is down here. So if I put this to the edge of this like this, when I pour the water here, it's not going to be deep enough. So you have to lift this up a little bit so that the epoxy will back up here, and then you want it to just well up over the top. Just a little bit. So this is where we'll mount it just like this. And I know there's a gap on the bottom. We won't worry about that right now. So this one we can mount in here right now. So what I'm going to use is a little bit of caulk. No fancy glues or anything, just plain caulk, the same caulk I use for everything else on here. And we're just going to push this right in here. So there we go. That's the start of our rock quarry. Now when this dries, I'm going to come back with the Sculptamold, and we'll start filling in the bottom end of this. Maybe in an hour or so we'll let this caulk have a chance to set up, and then we can come back in and backfill some of these areas. Alright, so we're back to start this next part. We're going to use Sculptamold, it's called. It's like a paper mache mixture. You just add water to it, and this is what you come up with. It's kind of like a paste. And I use it to fill in all the places where the rocks don't really cover, that I need to have filled in. Alright, so we're going to let that harden for a little bit. It's still too soft to mess with. We'll let that harden for about 15-20 minutes, and then we can come back and I'm going to do a final smooth out of everything in here. And that'll be it. And I think that's as far as I can go until I get the bridge abutments. So yeah, we'll come back in about 15-20 minutes. We'll do the final shaping of everything we've got in here. Alright, so now we'll do the final sculpting of this and get it all dialed in just the way I need it. So that's what we end up with right there. And then once this dries completely, it'll be just a quick cleanup with sandpaper, and then it's ready to be painted. So, and then we did a little bit of touch up with the Sculptamold over here and filled in the seams from the added on pink foam. So we filled in these seams so that'll blend, and the same with across the way over here. That's all filled in too. So once that's painted and scenic, you won't see what's going on there at all. So there we go. So now we'll let that dry for a whole day or so, and we'll come back and just do some final smoothing with a little bit of sandpaper. We don't want to get too crazy with it because we don't want to take out the detail in the rocks here. We don't want to get rid of any of that. So, you know, because there's a lot of detail up in here that we really don't want to lose. These little cracks that are here, there's still some cracks and things. We want to keep that. It adds to the realism of the rocks, because when you look at real rock like that, it's never just a continuous thing. There are cracks, there are chunks missing. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So, you know, we don't want it completely solid and smooth. So let's let this dry, and we'll come back, I don't know, in a day or so when this is all dried up, and we'll finish this up. And then once I get my abutments in here, then we can build the beach that goes right here. That'll be the next little project after the abutments go in. So until then, we'll see you later.